It was just another busy Monday morning at Hamilton and Company, the kind where the hum of printers and clicking keyboards filled the air like static. Everyone was running on caffeine and deadlines, barely acknowledging anyone who walked through the lobby. I was a junior associate, low enough on the ladder to be invisible but ambitious enough to notice what others didn't. That morning, a visitor stood near the reception desk, holding a small notepad and looking around with uncertainty. People brushed past him, too busy to care. He tried speaking to the receptionist, but when no words came out and his gestures grew more frantic, she just gave an awkward smile and said, "Someone will help you soon." No one did. I noticed his hands moving as if forming shapes in the air, sign language. He was deaf. He looked lost, anxious, clutching a folder marked with the Hamilton and Company logo. I don't know what came over me, but I walked toward him. Maybe it was empathy, maybe instinct, or maybe just the uncomfortable realization that we all claim to be a people-first company, until real humanity shows up. I stopped in front of him and gently signed, "Hello. Do you need help?" His eyes widened, surprise flashing across his face. He signed back quickly, relief flooding his expression. He introduced himself as Daniel, said he was here for a design presentation, and that he'd been waiting for someone named Mr. Reynolds. The receptionist was still glued to her computer, clearly missing all of this. I smiled at Daniel and signed, "Come with me. I'll find him." I led him through the office, translating to confused colleagues who whispered behind me. Some smirked, some rolled their eyes, one even muttered, "Why is she wasting time with that guy?" But I ignored them. We found the conference room where the meeting was supposed to happen, except everyone inside had already started without him. Slides were on screen, voices overlapping, and there was an empty chair by the projector. My chest tightened. They had started his presentation without him. I opened the door, and the chatter died down. "Excuse me," I said firmly, "this is Daniel. He's the designer for this project." Heads turned, a few faces flushed. Mr. Reynolds, our senior partner, looked startled. "Oh, we thought he wasn't coming," he said awkwardly. Daniel smiled politely, signing something that I translated, "I was here 15 minutes early." A few people exchanged embarrassed glances. I set up my laptop and opened a text-to-speech tool so Daniel could follow along while presenting. Then I stood beside him as he began signing his ideas, every movement fluid, confident, powerful. I interpreted each sentence for the team, my voice steady as he described his design concept, a rebranding campaign that merged minimalism with emotional storytelling. The room, once filled with half-hearted attention, grew silent. Everyone was mesmerized. Daniel's design spoke louder than any words could. When he finished, the team erupted into applause. He smiled, signing "Thank you." After the meeting, Mr. Reynolds clapped me on the shoulder. "Good work, Emily. That was impressive." But it wasn't him who mattered. What mattered came a few minutes later, when I turned to see the CEO himself, Mr. Hamilton, standing by the door. He'd watched the entire thing. He approached, his gaze fixed on Daniel and me. "I saw what happened," he said quietly. "I saw how everyone ignored him. And I saw who didn't." My stomach twisted. I didn't know if I was in trouble or about to get fired for interrupting a senior meeting. But then he smiled. "That," he said, "is what leadership looks like." He walked up to Daniel, shook his hand firmly, and wrote on a notepad, "Brilliant presentation. You're exactly what this company needs." Daniel's face lit up. Then the CEO turned to me. "Emily, can you join me in my office after this?" I nodded, heart pounding. When I stepped into his office later, I expected a polite thank you and maybe a warning about professional boundaries. Instead, he gestured for me to sit and said, "Tell me honestly, how many of our employees know sign language?" I hesitated. "Probably none. I only learned because my cousin is deaf." He nodded thoughtfully. "That needs to change. I'm launching a new inclusion initiative, and I want you to lead it." I froze. Me? But I'm just a junior associate. Not anymore, he said, sliding a folder across his desk. Inside was a new contract. You're being promoted to Communication Inclusion Officer. Full salary upgrade. You'll train staff, design accessibility policies, and ensure we never miss talent like Daniel again. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Sir, thank you, he raised a hand. Don't thank me. You saw a human being when others saw inconvenience. That deserves more than words. That afternoon, I walked Daniel to the elevator. He signed, "You changed my day. Maybe even my life." I smiled and signed back, "You did the same for me." Weeks passed, and soon our office transformed. Employees attended sign language workshops, accessibility software was installed, and Daniel's design campaign won us our biggest client in years. The same people who once ignored him now greeted him warmly every morning. The culture had shifted, and somehow, I had become part of that change. A few months later, during the company's annual gala, the CEO stood on stage to announce the Employee Impact Award. My name was called. As I walked up, he said, "This award goes to someone who reminded us that communication isn't about who speaks the loudest, but who listens the most." The crowd clapped, and I spotted Daniel in the audience, smiling proudly. That night, I realized something profound. In a world obsessed with noise, real leadership isn't about speaking, it's about noticing the ones who can't. The visitor everyone ignored had given me the greatest opportunity of my life. And as I looked across that glittering hall, trophy in hand, I knew that sometimes the smallest act of kindness, the moment you decide not to walk past someone, can change everything.